Elias Morrow liked to tell people that his second-hand bookstore, Watermark and Whimsy, possessed three things no chain megastore could replicate: the mossy scent of paper older than its readers, the undemanding dignity of things that have outlived their first owners, and an orange and white cat named Kipling. Though West Bridgeport's foot traffic had thinned over the decades, first by the new mall, then by the new apps, Elias opened the brass-framed door every morning at 9 and waited for the bell to jingle. Some days the only customer was Mrs. Galino searching for Regency romances. Other days tourists from the college wandered in, looking for vintage vibes and posting photos of Kipling sprawled across history anthologies. The cat, for his part, maintained an enviable consistency. He slept 18 hours, demanded tuna at noon, and, for reasons known only to feline psychology, napped on the same shoulder-high shelf in the antiquarian alcove. Elias had built that alcove himself. He'd braced the wall with oak planks, lined it with humidity-monitoring silica packets, and wired a small, almost invisible camera beneath the front lip of the fifth shelf. The lens, no wider than the head of a thumbtack, was angled downward to watch the rare volumes. First editions of Walt Whitman, a fragile 1787 Virginia printing of Shakespeare's King Lear, and 3 worn notebooks that may or may not have belonged to Emily Dickinson's maid. Clients serious enough to browse there signed a ledger and left bags at the counter. Most patrons respected the rules. Most, but not all. For 2 months running, Watermark and Whimsy had been hemorrhaging its crown jewels. A 17th century map of the Caribbean disappeared in February. In March, a Calvinist tract signed by John Winthrop slipped away. Each theft was surgically precise. No forced entry, no smashed cases, no alarms triggered. The only evidence Elias had was the yawning space on his ledgers between an item's arrival and its absence. He installed the hidden camera in April, all while telling the cat, "Kip, you guard the goods. I'm just giving you backup." Kipling agreed. At least he blinked once, which Elias interpreted as agreement, and then promptly made the camera shelf his exclusive bed. Every closing hour unfolded the same. Elias would lift the cat so the camera had a clear view, adjust the lens, and wish the stack of leather covers good night. Each dawn, Kipling would already be there again, curled like a furry apostrophe, tail dangling. Reviewing footage was just a show reel of Kipling's rising and falling flank, his whiskers twitching, the occasional moth fluttering past. Elias called the file directory 8 hours of obligatory cat content and uploaded a snippet to the store's dormant social feed as a lark. Overnight, it attracted 43,000 views. Apparently, the internet never tired of a cat ignoring priceless literature. Yet the thefts did not stop. On the last Thursday of May, Elias unlocked the alcove to discover the Dickinson notebooks gone. His heart spasmed. Collectors had offered up to 10,000 apiece. Worse than the money was the shame. He felt he'd failed his unspoken pact with every previous owner, whose annotations still whispered along the margins. Elias dialed the police, recited the inventory, and surrendered the external hard drive containing all camera footage. A young officer named Laird promised to call. Kipling, indifferent to mortal concerns, demanded his noon tuna. A week passed, then 2. Officer Laird's voicemail filled with other emergencies. Elias began to consider a second job. Late June sunlight fell through dusty transoms, gilding the emptiness. One Tuesday, while squinting at the shop's anemic finances, Elias heard the brass bell ring and looked up to see someone he hadn't since college. Nora Blythe. She'd been in his Shakespeare seminar, smarter than the professors, yet kind about it. Now she wore photographer's cords, carried an aluminum case, and still tucked a pencil behind her ear. "Elias," she said, "I saw your cat cam. I'm doing a documentary on independent bookstores. May I film?" He almost laughed at the timing, but needed goodwill. "If you can promise Kipling won't unionize for residuals, yes." She laughed, surveyed the place, and grew serious. "I heard about the losses, too." "Old news. The camera was supposed to fix that." "Mind if I look at your setup?" He obligingly led her to the alcove. Kipling lay in his usual crenel. Nora rose on tiptoe, traced the shelf underside with 2 fingers, and whistled softly. "Here's the trouble," she murmured. "You wedge the lens at 45 degrees, but see how the cat's body blocks that whole quadrant. If someone approached from the left, all you'd catch is fur." "I was trying for subtle." "Subtle's good, but sightlines are better. Got extra cameras?" He did not. Business afforded no such luxuries. Nora set down her aluminum case, unlatched it, and withdrew twin cylinders the length of lipstick tubes. "Mini 4Ks, courtesy of a grant I haven't exhausted. Changing the battery is a nightmare, but they stream continuously to my laptop. Nora, I can't. Consider it my donation to the cause of literature. Besides," she winked, "I need fresh B-roll for my project." So began an unexpected collaboration. That afternoon, they positioned 3 more cameras. One embedded in the antique barometer facing the alcove, another disguised as a moth-chewed copy of The Golden Bough, and a ceiling-mounted pinhole that surveilled the entire floor. All feeds funneled to Nora's computer, which she left running in the back office. Every night, Elias locked up, and every morning found Kipling dozing in the old spot, cameras whirring like digital cicadas. A fortnight drifted by with no incident. Then, on the humid evening of July 11th, something shifted. Elias had closed at 9, swept the aisles, and coaxed Kipling from the alcove, so literature's guardian could take his nightly tour. The cat jumped down, trotted behind the counter, and settled in his second favourite bed, a cardboard box labelled Art of War, various editions. Satisfied, Elias shut off the lights, deadbolted the door, and walked the 6 blocks to his apartment, convinced they were finally safe. At 2:17 a.m., Nora's laptop chirped. She had set alerts for any movement past midnight. That night, she happened to be editing footage in her loft across town, nursing cold peppermint tea when the notification popped. The push image showed Kipling leaping onto the alcove again. So far, so normal. But a second later, a silhouette glided behind him, shoulder projecting beyond the shelves. Nora rewound, enlarged, sharpened. The figure wore dark gloves, an unzipped windbreaker, and carried what looked like a canvas painter's portfolio. She dialed Elias, then Officer Laird. His voicemail reported he was on patrol. "Kipling," she muttered, "please move your fluffy butt." On screen, Kipling obliged, stretching to the right. The thief's face became briefly visible. Narrow jaw, Roman nose, and bizarrely a pencil behind one ear. Nora gasped. She recognized him, Talbot Reeves, another alumnus of their college, known back then for forging hall passes and plagiarizing term papers with surgical precision. The irony of a thief visiting the same academic circle was almost quaint. Talbot stooped, withdrew a flat tool, and pried Whitman loose. Kipling, affronted by such impertinence, batted at the man's elbow. Talbot flinched but continued, slipping volumes into the portfolio like a dealer sliding cards. Nora switched windows and executed the command she'd been hesitant to try. Live streaming all cameras to the shop's public feed, the same one that had hosted obligatory cat content. The follower count had ballooned to 110,000 thanks to algorithmic fortune. She captioned the stream, "Break-in at Watermark and Whimsy. Please alert police." Then she screen-grabbed Talbot's face and posted it to every local community group, tagging West Bridgeport PD. The internet responded faster than any siren. Comments scrolled, "That's my brother's old roommate, 911 calling now. Where's Kipling? Protect Kipling." A user named MothFan47 wrote, "I'm 2 blocks away, on my bike." At 2:23 a.m., Talbot zipped the portfolio and turned. His flashlight beam swept upward and froze on the ceiling camera. He cursed. Kipling, energized by new sport, sank claws into the thief's pant leg. Talbot kicked him loose, eliciting a collective online shriek of horror, then jogged toward the rear exit. Nora toggled through feeds and saw him vanish through the staff door. Unbeknown to him, that lock defaulted to alarm mode after hours. Desert-dry klaxons erupted. Elias, awakened by his vibrating phone and a dozen push notifications pinging in manic syncopation, sprinted into jeans backwards, misbuttoned a shirt, and bolted outside, dialing the police en route. Sirens converged before he reached the store. 2 cruisers boxed the alley. Under sodium vapor light, Talbot knelt, hands cuffed behind, while Officer Laird read rights with detached poetry. Kipling, apparently recovered from the kick, sat atop the thief's dropped portfolio, tail swishing with regal disdain. Laird glanced up as Elias arrived, panting. "Your cat tripped him," the officer said, almost smiling. "Leapt right at the face." Kipling mewed modestly, accepting the universal law that heroes deserve sardines. Nora skidded to a stop moments later, camera dangling like jewelry. She'd cycled across town, adrenaline frothing. She hugged Elias before she could think better of it. "We got him," she breathed. Morning grey had barely lifted when the full magnitude hit Elias. Over the next days, the story went viral. Cat Foyle's rare book heist. Networks begged for interviews. Kipling's short leap was gifted, memed, set to hip-hop beats. More importantly, the police traced Talbot's previous sales, recovered the missing map, tract, and notebooks from auction houses and private collectors who'd paid in crypto. Each surrendered item became evidence, soon to be returned. Yet the biggest revelation came when Talbot lawyered up and offered a confession deal. He hadn't acted alone. 2 silent partners had stolen to order for high-end clients who wanted trophies disconnected from provenance. Those partners were still at large, with a shopping list heavy on early American literature, exactly what Elias specialized in. Detective Hartley, taking over from patrol, asked Elias and Nora for help. A sting felt possible. Keep Watermark and Whimsy open, advertise a new influx of rarities, broadcast cat live streams as bait. Would the accomplices take the risk? Elias said yes before fear could talk him out of it. Nora updated camera placement. This time they wired mics too. She taught Elias basic feed switching, OBS for dummies, she joked, and scheduled everyday cat's eye view streams at unpredictable intervals so watchers wouldn't know when the cameras were idle or monitored. They also staged a shipment, a supposed first edition Moby Dick and a Poe manuscript purchased from a retiring collector. Detective Hartley arranged decoys that resembled originals down to forged wormholes. Press releases teased the acquisition. In forums where antiquarian gossip thrived, a username called Quills and Quivers inquired about viewing appointments. Cross-reference traced the username to an IP belonging to a private courier service. Hartley raised an eyebrow. On August 3rd at 7:04 p.m., 2 visitors entered Watermark and Whimsy. They presented college IDs under the names Tim Cozy and Linda Prue, asked politely to view the new Melville. They were 30-ish, fit and nondescript, exactly the style professional thieves curated. Elias led them past Kipling, who, as though rehearsed, escorted with tail aloft. In the alcove, Tim inspected bindings with gloved fingertips, while Linda peppered Elias with tangential questions: humidity controls, insurance policies, whether any pieces travelled to exhibitions off-site. Classic distraction pattern. Elias's pulse galloped, but he channeled his best customer service drone. Meanwhile, Nora, from the office, watched their every micro-expression. She saw Tim slip a thin scalpel from a cuff, poised to lift the Poe manuscript's seal. She pressed the silent alarm, cueing Detective Hartley to enter from the unmarked van parked outside. But just then, Kipling intervened by choosing that moment, exactly that moment, to leap onto the manuscript box. Tim startled, blade prickling the air. Kipling plopped down so implacably that the thief would have had to shove him to proceed. Linda's smile wobbled. "Adorable," she said, voice brittle. Elias, reminded of the viral outrage last time someone kicked the cat, commented lightly, "He guards the section." Nora whispered into her headset for Hartley to hold. "Let's see what they try." Hartley, against protocol but curious, waited. Tim recapped his scalpel, stroked the cat once to mask the move, and nodded to Linda. They asked for a moment to confer outside. Elias escorted them, waved politely. Kipling followed, tail twitching like Morse code. In the vestibule, the pair exchanged low words. Kipling wound around their ankles, delivering mild static shocks of fur. Linda bent as if to pet him, and palmed something into the tote bag at her hip, unaware that the vestibule camera, disguised as a brass coat hook, filmed every pixel. Tim pulled the door open. They stepped onto the sidewalk and onto the shoes of Detective Hartley. "Evening," Hartley said. "Let's talk about your scalpel." Their arrest was uneventful, though Linda attempted to feign outrage. The tote revealed the forged Poe manuscript, along with brass skeleton keys and blank museum labels. Enough intent to bury them. That night, after paperwork, Elias locked up and switched the window sign to closed cat on duty. Nora perched on a step stool, screwing shut unused camera ports. Kipling sprawled across the counter, purring like a distant motorcycle. Elias poured 2 fingers of scotch, 1 finger each, and toasted. To Kipling, Chief of Security. "Don't let him hear that," Nora teased, clinking cups, "or we'll owe him a dental plan." They sipped, exhausted, exhilarated. The ordeal had welded them into unexpected partners. Nora could finish his sentences about incunabula. He could anticipate her colour temperature adjustments. Something else glimmered too, the possibility of a more personal collaboration. The Internet's hunger, of course, proved bottomless. A production company pitched a series, Bookstore Cat Crime Fighter. While Elias balked at turning his livelihood into reality TV, he admitted an uptick in customers, especially families dragging children eager to meet Detective Kip. Sales tripled within months. Kipling handled celebrity with Buddha calm, accepting petting cues as though they were mere pauses between naps. In private, Kipling still claimed his shelf, albeit now fitted with a plush velvet cushion and a small brass plaque. On this spot, 11th July, Kipling the cat stood watch and salvaged our stories. Elias caught Nora photographing the plaque one late afternoon. Sunlight crowned her hair. She lowered the camera and smiled. "Stories need guardians," she said, "whether they have 2 legs or 4. He found himself replying, "Some guardians need partners." She looked up, startled, then beamed, a smile that promised footnotes, addendums, entire appendices of shared future. Kipling yawned, unconvinced by human melodrama, and closed his eyes. Months later, Detective Hartley visited off-duty, buying his niece a beginner's guide to botanical sketching. He found Elias and Nora behind the counter, cataloguing newly donated travelogues, their shoulders brushing. Kipling slumbered in the usual place. The camera's lens, relocated to the archway, recorded only mundane peace. A small store resilient against time and thieves, a cat dozing over artifacts of imagination, two people discovering that between margins and security footage, life could write a satisfying sequel. Hartley paid, paused, and asked, "So what's next for the guardian of literature?" Elias scratched the cat's ears. "Same as always. He sleeps, we keep watch, and the stories stay safe." Outside, sirens faded into city hum. Inside Watermark and Whimsy, dust motes drifted like unwritten words waiting to settle. Kipling, untroubled by plots or prospects, curled deeper into the crook of his beloved shelf, and, dutiful as ever, began his nap.